Oh, Senator Peters. Senator Peters is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, good to have you here. Welcome to the committee. General Bondi, leadership at DHS has claimed that ICE and others who are carrying out immigration enforcement activities and support are covering their faces to protect themselves from being doxxed. And certainly I fully understand those concerns and I appreciate those concerns, and I think they're real concerns. But I'm deeply concerned that the lack of identification during these activities is dangerous, both to the public as well as to the officers themselves. The public risk being harmed by individuals pretending to be immigration enforcement, which has already happened. We've seen that happen. And these officers also risk being injured by individuals who think they're basically being kidnapped or attacked by some unknown assailant. So my question for you, Attorney General Bondi, is given the number of DOJ employees currently conducting immigration enforcement activities in support of DHS, how are you going to ensure that the safety of the public and the officers, if they continue to not follow required protocol to identify themselves as law enforcement?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm American Interest, your independent political analyst here to break down the most important developments from Capitol Hill without spin, without noise, and without tribalism. Just grounded analysis based on facts, policy, and reasoned perspective. Today, we're reacting to an important but under-the-radar Senate hearing exchange between Senator Gary Peters of Michigan and Attorney General Bondi. It's a conversation that touches on law enforcement identification, immigration policy, national security, and the balance of federal resources, and it deserves a closer look. Let's walk through the key moments and discuss what they mean from a policy and public safety standpoint.
And Senator Peters, that's the first time that issue has come to me about them you're saying that law enforcement officers, when they cover their faces.
Right.
I do know they are being doxxed, as you said. They're being threatened. Their families are being threatened. You know,
Again, I get that, but they have to identify themselves. There is an insignia oftentimes. They have to identify themselves as law enforcement. People think, here's a person coming up to me, not identified, covering themselves. They're kidnapping. They'll probably fight back. That endangers the officer as well. And that's a serious situation. People need to know that they're dealing with a federal law enforcement official.
Senator, I would be happy to look at that issue with you and talk to all of our partner law enforcement agencies, but I can assure you that if they're covering their faces now, it's to protect themselves. But they also want to protect all citizens, and that's something we can work together on to ensure the safety of everyone and their families.
Yeah. And it's protecting themselves, too, if they identify themselves. It's not just the person, because someone's going to fight back if you just think a strange person with their face covered is throwing you into a van. Most people will resist that.
It sounds like you have a specific case, and I would
be happy
to talk to you about that at a later time, because I'm not aware of that happening. But I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
We'd be happy to do it. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Earlier this month, the administration announced it was launching an effort to ramp up immigration apprehensions by shifting more than 5,000 personnel from across federal law enforcement, including approximately 2,000 from within the Justice Department, away from their typical duties to focus on immigration-related cases, including targeting individuals whose status had been terminated by this administration. This effort is on top of previous directives for department officials to focus on immigration enforcement. Many of these officials impacted by these directives, unsurprisingly, say they're being forced to turn their attention away from other national security missions, including counterterrorism and cybersecurity. There has been public reporting that hundreds of FBI agents have been reassigned to immigration-related duties, and raising real concerns among agents themselves that the shift could hinder investigations into terror threats and espionage by China and Russia. And we have also heard concerns about resources being reoriented at the state and local level. Attorney General Bondi, I know the Justice Department officials have said that this president can walk and chew gum at the same time, and that you continue to hold all criminals accountable regardless of immigration status. But numerous reports on the ground from career government officials and some basic common sense would beg to differ. Given the attacks on Iran over the weekend, this issue has become even more salient, with threats from terrorists inspired by Iran, cyber attacks, often by Iran itself, or additional efforts by that regime to go after government leaders. So my question is, how are you ensuring that there are enough resources focused on the full range of national security threats, and there's no shortage of those, when so many of our DOJ resources are being reallocated to immigration enforcement?
I talk to Director Patel or Deputy Director Bongino 7 days a week. I speak to my National Security Division. We meet every single day. Emil Bovey, who's currently with us, is doing an incredible job in the national security space as well, helping us. We are doing everything. We are using our resources on all fronts. And when you say immigration, immigration is going hand in hand with the people who have come into our country through our borders. I think just over 1,500 illegal aliens from Iran are here. Chinese individuals, Russian individuals, people from every country. That goes hand in hand with immigration, identifying them, finding them, and getting them out of our country. Will national security be compromised? Not at all, Senator. It will be increased. It will be enhanced. I can tell you, every day we talk about this, multiple times a day, 7 days a week, as to what we can do, working hand in hand with DEA, ATF agents, FBI, Homeland Security, ICE, to make sure that our nation is safe. And FBI, they have a 24/7 center set up now. And actually, we've set some up around the country. And you're welcome to actually come see one if you would like anytime. I would love to have you come in and see what we do. But we have that set up around our country on a national security level to be sure Americans are safe and do everything we can to get terrorists who are in our country out of our country.
Well, certainly, I don't disagree with any of that. There do obviously criminal elements that are there need to be taken care of, but you're also looking at cybersecurity, which is different. You're looking at counterterrorism issues that are different. And I don't believe that we were over-resourced in those areas. You may beg to differ. So they were not over-resourced. We were making sure that they had the resources to deal with the other threats. But now those people are being pulled off of those jobs for another job. I just want to make sure that we're still doing things necessary to protect us from cyber threats, counterterrorism, and the long list of other threats that we face every day.
Thank you for those questions, and I know your background, and that's why it's so important to all of us. And yes, we are. And cybersecurity, I could go on for 2 hours about cybersecurity and what's happening. Not only that, the online child predators online, but the foreign terrorist threats through cybersecurity that we can talk about in a different setting. I'd be happy to discuss all of that with you and our efforts, not only made within our country, but with our partners worldwide.
Well, I'll look forward to having that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Peters kicked off by raising a legitimate concern that's often overlooked in discussions about immigration enforcement, the lack of clear identification by officers, particularly when they're covering their faces during operations. According to Peters, officers from ICE and other agencies have reportedly been conducting raids or detentions without clearly identifying themselves as federal law enforcement, sometimes wearing face coverings, which, while understandable for person protection, can lead to confusion or even dangerous confrontations with civilians. Let's pause here. This is a classic policy tension on one hand. Officers are reportedly being doxxed and threatened, a serious and growing problem in the digital age. But on the other hand, civilians have the right to know whether someone detaining them is actually a law enforcement agent or a potential impersonator. And as Peters rightly pointed out, there have been documented cases of individuals pretending to be ICE officers or other agents to commit crimes. If you're approached by someone wearing tactical gear but no badge, no name, and a covered face, how are you supposed to know whether it's legitimate? Most people would panic or worse, resist. Attorney General Bondi responded by saying this was the first time he was directly hearing about this concern in this context. That may be true from his personal perspective, but the issue has been discussed in policy and media circles before. He did, however, acknowledge the seriousness of it and committed to working with Senator Peters to find a balance between officer safety and public transparency. This was a good faith exchange on both sides, and it's refreshing to see a bipartisan, solutions-oriented tone, something that feels increasingly rare in these hearings. The conversation then shifted gears to a broader and even more consequential issue, the recent reallocation of over 5,000 federal law enforcement personnel, including 2,000 from the Department of Justice, to focus on immigration enforcement activities. Senator Peters expressed concern that this shift in priorities is coming at the expense of critical missions like counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and other national security efforts. He cited credible reports that hundreds of FBI agents have been reassigned, and even career officials inside the agencies are expressing concern that the DOJ is being stretched thin. This is a key policy dilemma. We live in a world with simultaneous, evolving threats. Cyber attacks from foreign actors, state-sponsored espionage, domestic extremism, and yes, issues stemming from illegal immigration. So it raises a crucial question. Can a federal government effectively walk and chew gum at the same time? That's the phrase Peters used, and it's not rhetorical. It's a practical test of federal capacity and interagency coordination. Attorney General Bondi responded with confidence. He argued that immigration enforcement is national security, citing the presence of over 1,500 illegal entrants from Iran, along with individuals from China and Russia, as part of the broader rationale. His message was clear. Identifying, tracking, and deporting these individuals directly strengthens the nation's safety. Now, here's where it gets nuanced. Bounty isn't wrong. Immigration and national security do intersect, particularly when dealing with individuals from adversarial states. But the concern isn't whether immigration matters, it's whether the focus on it is overpowering other essential domains like cybersecurity, which requires constant vigilance, and counterterrorism, which often relies on long-term investigations that can be paused and restarted. Reassigning agents midstream can have real-world consequences: misintelligence, delayed surveillance, and broken continuity in critical operations. To his credit, Bounty pointed to new 24/7 national security centers being stood up around the country by the FBI. He even invited the senator to visit and see firsthand the work being done, keep Americans safe. This is encouraging, but again, it raises questions. Are these centers newly created to handle the gap left by agent reassignments? Are they staffed at full strength? Are they sustainable long-term if agents continue being redirected to immigration operations? We didn't get definitive answers, but we did get an open invitation to oversight, which is something both Congress and the public should take seriously. The final exchange revolved around cybersecurity, a domain that both the senator and the AG acknowledged is increasingly vital. Peters warned, and I think rightly so, that pulling agents away from this area is risky, especially as Iran ramps up cyber operations in response to geopolitical tensions. Bounty assured the committee that cybersecurity remains a priority, but admitted that it's a topic deserving of its own extended conversation, perhaps even a closed-door briefing, given the classified nature of cyber operations. So what's the takeaway? This hearing was a reminder of how complex the national security apparatus is, and how difficult it is to balance competing priorities with limited resources. It also illustrated a tension that we'll see more of in the coming months: the political optics of immigration enforcement versus the operational demands of counterterrorism and cybersecurity. From a neutral analyst perspective, I'd say this. Senator Peters was right to raise concerns about transparency and public safety during enforcement operations. Attorney General Bounty made a compelling case that immigration enforcement and national security are deeply linked, but didn't fully address the potential loss of focus in other vital areas. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. The government can do both, but only if oversight, funding, and interagency planning are optimized. Let's hope we see more hearings like this where the goal isn't partisan posturing, but practical problem solving. That's it for today's breakdown. If you found this helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more neutral, fact-based political analysis, and drop a comment below. What do you think? Should immigration enforcement take precedence over cybersecurity? Or are both equally urgent? Let's talk about it in the comments.